So, hello, everybody. I want to welcome you. My name is Derek Smith from the Private Investigation and Security Professional Training Academy. And I want to welcome you to today's professional interview. And today I have a really good friend of mine. We've been friends for many, many years. Like me, he's been in law enforcement probably longer than me. I have 4 years in law enforcement. He probably has been in law enforcement longer than me. He's done a lot of things in law enforcement. And we have another thing that's very much in common. We're both martial artists. He has a great affinity for the martial arts. You know, he is a martial arts master. I think, what, an eighth degree black belt?
Eighth degree.
Eighth degree black belt. And he's going to talk a little bit about that and the importance of that for law enforcement and security and private investigation. So with no further ado, I'm going to let him introduce yourself. And why don't you tell everybody who you are? I mean, I know you very well, but tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charles Roberson. I've been in law enforcement now. I'm going to say the law enforcement career field because I'm not an active law enforcement officer currently, but I am still in the, I guess you call it the genre of security and safety and law enforcement. So I consider it all in one. But I've been in it now since 1990, as long as I've been in it. I started off with the Air Force Office of Special Investigations when I was active duty military in the Air Force. And I did some time as a state trooper out in Illinois, a deputy sheriff in St. Charles County, Missouri. And then I did some, I went from there, then I got into the federal government through the Department of Veterans Affairs as a police officer, uniformed police officer. And that was actually really my first exposure to uniformed police officer in the federal government. And then I went from there to working over at Walter Reed as a detective, and then Fort Myer, Virginia, as the watch commander, and then I became chief of police over at the Delphi Laboratory Center, all within the Department of the Army. Currently, what I'm doing right now, I'm working anti-terrorism and physical security for the Department of the Navy.
So everybody, I wanted to kick this off because as you see, he has extensive experience in this field, in our field. And I always say the security industry or the law enforcement industry, because
Yes.
it runs the gamut. Just to mention, we both were Air Force OSI agents, so same organization. We both worked at the Army Research Laboratory together.
Yes,
like
we
you
did.
say, police, and at that point I was cybersecurity. And so we have a similar background, but as you see, he has an extensive background: law enforcement, detective, protective services. What was that last one you said? The terrorism, anti-terrorism.
Yeah. Currently, I'm doing anti-terrorism and physical security.
Mhm. And extensive training. I can't even mention all the training he's gone through in these different fields. So we're going to get through all that as we talk and work and go through this. But tell me, you want me to call you Chuck today?
You call me Chuck. You call me Chuck.
Yeah, let's call him Chuck today. So Chuck, so tell me, what are you currently working on? What are you currently focused on in your new industry and what you do there?
Well, in anti-terrorism / force protection, physical security, which is one of the pillars underneath the security field. Okay, you have law enforcement, you have anti-terrorism, you have safety, you have physical security. They're all pillars within, I actually like to call it emergency management as being the overall umbrella, because we all basically are emergency responders to some extent in one way or another. Essentially what anti-terrorism is it's kind of like the sister to counterterrorism, but we do defensive measures in preparation to stop the terrorists, to be able to provide actionable information to our physical security. And that's where I slide over to the physical security part. That also what I do there is defensive measures, working on barrier plans, working on barrier itself, the IDS system, alarm systems, things of that nature. Doing surveys, threat assessment surveys, and vulnerability assessments as well.
Let me ask you this. I mean, it takes a unique individual to do what we do. This is not for everybody.
That's a fact.
I want to take it back a little bit. What got you interested and started in this type of field in the first place?
Oh my God! Truth be told, I got into it by accident, and kind of segue also into martial arts, because actually I was teaching martial arts um, over for the when I was overseas in Spain back in the 80s, and the vast majority of my students were Air Force OSI agents and Air Force Security Police. I would say 90% of them.
And I want to hold that, because next I want to come back to that, because that's something I hope you caught there. A lot of the law enforcement and military guys, law enforcement, were taking self-defense courses, and we're going to get into that in a little bit later.
Exactly. So I was at my 10-year mark in the military at the time, and at the time, what I was doing in the Air Force, I was working on fighter bomber aircrafts, and I kind of had an epiphany about what am I going to do when I got out of the military. And one of my students who worked in the I can't even remember what their specific field is within OSI, but they're the tech guys. Okay, he did the cameras and inputting cameras and things of that nature. But he approached me and asked me if I ever thought about going to OSI. And initially I said no. I never even gave it any type of thought of doing anything like that. But as more and more I started thinking about it, it kind of piqued my curiosity, and I jumped in. Although I never really had a wish to be in law enforcement, because normally the way that you do it, you go in a uniform, you go in as a uniform officer, and then you get into the investigations. I didn't have that luxury. I went straight into investigations with no law enforcement background whatsoever.
Right.
Okay, and that was actually very difficult to do that. So I got in, and I found out that there were a lot of things within that career field that was me. I think everyone in law enforcement, we're alpha types. Okay, to some extent, we're all alphas.
Yes.
And sometimes it causes problems because of that. But I found out that was me, and it was just kind of meshed, and so I just kind of flowed through. And specifically, I actually found out that I really enjoyed being in uniform more so than being an investigator. So I kind of went backwards. I started in investigations, and then I got in the uniform and found out that's what was really me. As my career progressed, I got into anti-terrorism and physical security, because I knew that at some point I wasn't going to be able to do all that. So even though I was the chief of police, I was in management. I just knew that it was going to be a transition over into another phase of what I was doing.
Okay. And I'm gonna ask you something else, but it's funny because it's kind of similar for me. I used to go to the gym, and that's how I got into OSI. First of all, OSI, folks, if you don't know, you have NCIS. I'm sure you all familiar with NCIS from TV, and I'm sure most of you heard of Army CID. Well, we were Air Force OSI agents. That's Office of Special Investigations, and we did the same exact thing that NCIS and Army does, but we did it for the Air Force. So I had a similar story. I used to see this guy at the gym all the time working out, buff dude. He always had the nicest suits on. He's walking around. I finally said, dude, what do you do? And he told me about OSI, and I'd never heard of this.
Right,
like you,
right.
I'm from the south side of Chicago, so I never wanted to be law enforcement or anything like that. I just wanted to do what this guy was doing. But when I got into it, of course, I loved it. Unlike you, I'm not, I wear a uniform now as a reserve officer, but I never was really a uniform guy. I love doing that suit and tie guy. And I became a federal agent on the outside doing the same thing.
Right.
I want to take you back for a minute and tell us a little bit about the training that you've gone through as a law enforcement transition, the academy, physical security. What kind of, can you give me like a rapid training?
Yeah, actually,
you said something important. You said that you found out that going straight to being a detective or a special agent versus being uniform on the street first was a little bit different.
That was difficult.
Tell us about your training and that experience.
Well, I thought when I went through the OSI Academy, that was the hardest schooling I've ever had in my entire life. Until I went to the Illinois State Police Academy. Okay.
Don't even compare.
So that's something on its own, entirely different. But going through the OSI Academy with no law enforcement background whatsoever, some people think that that's a really good thing because, I have gotten into law enforcement with no predispositions. You know, I didn't have anybody telling me bad things, what to do. But for someone coming directly off the street, you know, I was unfamiliar with guns. Okay, because I'm martial arts. I like using my hands and stuff like that. You know, I had absolutely no idea what I was really getting myself into. I was just looking, truly, I was just looking to get into a job to where I can somehow take care of my family after I got out of the military. But then I got into the field, and I really started appreciating what it was. You know, being in law enforcement is an honorable profession.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because, you know, today's climate, law enforcement is not like that much. You know, now you and I serve military and law enforcement, and you said something important that we're alpha males, and you and I are good friends, but we bump heads and we don't mind arguing about something.
Yeah, we do.
At the end, we know to come out as friends.
Right.
You know, but it takes a certain type of person to be a protector, you know, and we're kind of protect. You think about the sheep,
natural protector,
sheepdog. We're protectors, and that's been our career all our life. You know, you've done it since you joined the military, so that's part of doing it. Law enforcement has been part of doing it. Same with me, security and law enforcement. That's what we do. People in this field, you have wannabes to sometimes get into this field, but a lot of us want to be protectors, and somebody got to do it, and we're built for that.
Right? Absolutely.
So continue with your training. I'm sorry.
Yeah. The type of training. So I went through the Air Force Officer of Special Investigations, and then, you know, they had different types of trainings in order to keep yourself certified. You know, I've been to the SCAN course, where you scan analysis course, where essentially you find deception in someone who's giving you a written statement. You know, learn how to connect that. I've been to SCAN. I've been to the READ courses, the advanced READ courses. Been to advanced investigators.
And by the way, READ is interview and interrogation. That's our
exactly. Okay. And so I'm not going to name everything that I've been through as far as that's concerned, but I went from there, and then I went through the Illinois State Police Academy, which was you know, you stay in the academy. You don't really get to go home, except for during the weekends and if there are holidays that come around. Otherwise, you're in the academy.
That's about 6 months, right? I mean, OSI is about 3 months, but I think the police academy about what, 6 months or so, 18
well,
weeks?
That depends on what state that you're going through. At the time when I was going through it, you know, it was 7 months, 7.5 months long. And believe me, once you graduate the academy, you love that campaign hat. You know, everyone knows about the Smokey the Bear hat. Yep. You love that hat because it shows that you're graduated. You done graduated. So yeah, I've been through that, which is actually almost, like I said, it's almost like a 7-8 month long Marine Corps boot camp, because that's who they pattern themselves after. Extremely tough. I went through the VA Academy out of Arkansas, the Basic Police Academy. I've been through FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, their investigators course that's down there. A bunch of different academies that I've been through, to include the Class A certification down in Missouri.
So you all see that in this field, we continuously have to train
all the time,
always training. And matter of fact, that's going to segue into my next question. How do you stay up on your field, your industry? But I mean, you do a lot of training, so you have the training. There's some other things you do to stay up on your industry. I know that you and I get into conversations about things happening today. You know, a shooting occur or a beating or something occur, and we talk about it on Facebook a lot of things.
Well, you know, law enforcement is fluid. Okay, you know, a lot of people, you know, they dog us about, you know, you guys you're not trained enough. You know, people just don't seem to understand unless you actually been there.
Yes.
You know, you make split-second decisions that can, you know, take a life, or it could be your life. You know, and at the end of the day, you know, I want to come home. Okay, I want to come home.
So what do you say to those people that say things like, "Why didn't you shoot him in the arm?" or "Why didn't you shoot gun out of his hand?" or "Why didn't you shoot him in the leg?"
That's so ridiculous. I mean, you have the when the adrenaline is flowing, you're hoping and praying that your training kicks in. You know, just in order for you to be able to handle this situation. But every situation is different. Shooting at someone, you have to make sure that there's no one behind you or behind the individual that you're shooting. Okay, you have to be aware of your surroundings because you don't want a stray bullet to go anywhere, and to try to concentrate on a arm or a leg. And truth be told, they can still bleed out, even if you do shoot them in the arm or the leg. You hit an artery and they bleed out, and they're still dead. So it's extremely tough thing to do, which is why you have to continuously go through the training that's offered. You have to be proactive in your training and not take it for granted that your agency is just going to go ahead and do it for you. You have to go out there and reach for it, and including what I'm doing right now. And although I'm not in uniform anymore, I'm still reaching out, looking online, trying to find out what I can do in order to better myself, because my industry is changing every single day. That people are always finding ways, and this because of you being in cyber, finding ways of how to get around the defensive posture that you're setting up.
And that brings me to something, and here's the thing. I know the public, they have these misconceptions about us, about law enforcement. Now they don't like us because they don't understand, as you said, split-second decisions, relying on our training. I want to come back to that training thing in a minute, but just there's all the things we have to do just like that, and make the decision just like that. So I hate to say this, mistakes are going to happen. Unfortunately, the public hears about 1 out of 1,000. Things that we had 1,000 stops and one went bad or something like that. And of course, the bad is going to get the publicity, and then a lot of us suffer for it because we're all still in this field. Even as a reserve officer, I still put on a uniform, and I'm in fear because even more so because I don't have a weapon, but I'm wearing a badge and a uniform. I want to ask you this: what is one common myth about our profession that you would like to debunk? And it doesn't have to be about the shootings or anything, but anything that you like to debunk about.
Well, it's kind of segue into that, because right now we have all these different movements that are going on against law enforcement. The Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, I'm Black. I've been on both sides of the fence. Okay, growing up in Philadelphia, I've had cops come after me. Even as a uniform officer, give you a real quick story as a deputy sheriff. Okay, St. Charles County, Missouri. I was actually working in the jail at that time before I got out on the road, and everyone heard of the blue line. You don't go ahead and violate that kind of deal. But someone had basically narked on one of the supervisors that was a favorite of everyone's that was there, and what he was doing, he was actually sleeping with an inmate. Okay. For whatever reason, this one individual who was a former Air Force security policeman told everybody what I did as an Air Force OSI agent was tantamount to being internal affairs. So everyone pointed their finger that I was the one that narked. Long story short, once they found out that I didn't do it and everything like that, of course, they were all being apologetic. But, the long story short is that the career field as a whole is an honorable career field, but we do have bad apples, just like every other career field. Every other career field, there's going to be bad apples. We recruit from the general population. We try our best to bring in the best people that we possibly can. Now, one thing that I'm in full agreement with, but because of financial restraints in some departments, I believe that every department should be polygraphing recruits, every single recruit that comes in, and on a continual basis, on an annual basis, just so that we can try to be more confident in the type of officers that we have that are serving. Because at some point in time, as we go on within our careers, we do get, I'm not going to say jaded, but
it can be tainted. Yeah.
You
mean just jaded about the career, about what we see every day.
Yeah, what we see every day. It wears on you. You become hardened. So there are some bad people who are automatically will take what they grew up with, and they'll apply that to what they're doing every day, and they wind up abusing their authority, abusing their power. So I believe that we, as an agency, we ought to be checking ourselves. We ought to be polygraphing at least once a year.
That's a good point. And then like they say, and that saying, one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch. Well, that's the opposite of us. Absolutely. One bad apple, and everybody look at all of us as being bad. 98% are good. but that
Yeah.
2% taints our entire profession, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And of course, these days, people are going to catch it on camera, or it's going to be a witness or something, and that's what people are going to see. I mean, I hate being a profession that I think is very needed, and we're out there doing what needs to be done, and people hate us for it. People hate us.
So what's happening, and because of that, we're leaving in droves. We're retiring early. People are not coming on board. You're not getting the quality, or matter of fact, from what I
lower the standards.
They lower the standards. Some of the officers are not responding in an amount of time, and you don't have law enforcement. You have anarchy. You just plain have anarchy, and you can't have that in a society.
Nope.
And that's what we're viewing now, because a lot of these major cities, crime rate is shooting out the roof.
Yeah. And what we do, and we have to walk a thin line. We don't want to be what they call jackbooted thugs or whatever. We don't want to be the bad guy.
We don't want to be jackbooted thugs, and we don't also our white brethren or white police officers don't want to be viewed as being racist just because they're working in an area where there's a majority of or minorities or blacks or Latinos, and they don't want to be viewed as being racist just because they're wearing the blue. Or how are we being viewed? Being black officers, how are we being viewed?
They talk about the thin blue line. We got to kind of walk that thin blue line, and it's tough sometimes,
Yeah, it is. It is.
So what's one of the things you wish you had known when you began this career then? And then I got a follow up to that. But what's one thing you wish you'd known when you began this career?
How hard it would be. How hard you can become because of seeing different things every single day. I honestly, I don't think I would have came on board if I would have known how tough it would be.
Yeah.
A lot of us are suffering from PTSD from things that we are exposed to every single day.
And it's funny you say that, because we think we're okay. And I want to say this because people look at me and say, Derek, you become cynical. You become this, you become that. I don't even realize it. I think I'm still jovial Derek. However, I do look at death differently. Yeah. I do look at the crap that comes out of people's mouth differently. For us, almost everybody, when we encounter somebody, the first thing they do to us is what? They lie to us. And then we got to get the truth out of them. So we look at everything cynical. You and I, we talk about this on Facebook, because we'll see something and we have another view of it, because we see through some of the things people say sometimes, or we at least look at it different. People get mad at me because of course we all are sad when someone passes away, but we got to get over it quicker, I think, because we've seen so much death in our lives. We just look at the world from a different world view, I think. And sometimes we don't recognize that, and people don't understand it when our entire career has been law enforcement or military. So that's what we've done our entire life.
And something else that a lot of people don't realize, we have one of the highest divorce rates of any career field, because we take that stuff home.
Yeah. And it's hard to drop it at the door, isn't it?
It's hard to drop it.
I used to come home from a death scene, and my wife would tell me as soon as I walk in the door, she said, drop your clothes at the door. I can smell death all over you.
Yeah.
We can leave those clothes at the door, but we can't believe that death scene at the door, that we just came from, or that liar has been lying to us for 8 hours. And now we got to come home. The first thing one wife wants to say is, why did you leave your clothes on the floor instead of putting them in the hamper? It's hard for us to, we have to learn how to compartmentalize and still be the family person, and stuff still twirling in our head. You can't leave your piece at the door, So you said what you wish you'd done different. What would you give? What kind of advice would you give to somebody wanting to enter our profession now then?
Do your homework, as far as your homework in speaking to officers who have been in for a while. Mm-hmm. I think, honestly, if I would have done that, I wouldn't have come in. Although I love the job, being in uniform, versus actually being an investigator, like we were talking about. You enjoy being an investigator. I really didn't enjoy doing investigations. That really affected me doing child sexual assaults. I just name them all, and that really affected me. Being in uniform, I felt that it was something that was different every single day for me. Every day something was different, and I was out there and I was making a difference.
And you're a first responder. I wasn't. We weren't really as
I was
agents.
I was a first responder.
Yeah, you're first. We weren't really first responder. We show up and do an investigation
We
afterwards.
show up and do the investigation.
We might solve the crime, but that first responder thing sometimes
Yeah.
is the coolest thing, you know.
Yeah, and like you pointed out earlier, you know, I am a natural protector.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a natural protector, and I was a first responder, and I enjoyed that, doing that much more. So what I would recommend, make sure you know what you're getting yourself into, because after a certain amount of time, you will become hardened. That is the most, that has affected me more than anything else. Okay, when somebody comes up to me, and they think that I'm not being empathetic toward them, you know, or sympathetic towards them. It's just that I've learned how to harden myself to get just the facts. And I am literally, with my family or with anybody else, you know, I'm an impartial listener. You know, I hold my point of view. And especially within our community, when with Facebook and all these other different social media applications, people are quick to learn or quick to jump to a conclusion because they see part of a video.
Yep.
No. You have to wait.
We've seen the whole story oftentimes in our profession, and we know a clip is not the whole story. Even if the clip is very, very bad,
yeah,
you don't know what happened before that. And people jump to conclusions very, very often. And like you said, without thinking. And even you and I, we get into it on Facebook. We go back and forth. And sometimes we go back and forth, I think, on purpose, you know, because we're going to be the devil's advocate. Because we kind of know that you got to think about other things too.
No, I just like messing with you. That's all.
Huh?
I just like messing with you.
Me too. I like messing with everybody on there because to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff, it just goes by our head. We just having a conversation. We're conversing. And sometimes that conversation we had because we try to explain, look, you got to look at it from all the points of view. It's just hard to do it right in on Facebook, you know. So I want to segue into something else you talked about because I noticed I already said that you're a martial arts master.
Yes, sir.
I know that you have on your Black Belt Club shirt. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your martial art training and also the nexus between that and law enforcement? Because you mentioned training and how we have to depend on training, but realistically, I know I've had officers who shot once per year or twice per year for qualification.
Yeah,
Me too. They don't go back to the range. I used to go to range every month, and I was a firearms instructor and instructor at the academy. But some people only shoot when they have to shoot. So let's talk about your martial art training and the nexus between the two.
Well, you know, I started off very young. I started off when I was around 11 years old up in Philadelphia and in a traditional style, Shotokan Karate. Some people may have heard of it. I've been with it ever since, not just Shotokan, but in other different styles. I've done Aikido. I'm a grandmaster in Taekwondo. And although there's a difference between Taekwondo sport and Taekwondo the martial arts, okay? I'm a traditionalist. And now every day, for the most part, everyone is now getting into MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I think is great because most fights, I would say about 90% of them, 99% of them go to the ground at some point. So learning how to grapple is absolutely mandatory. As I stated earlier, that's how I got into my law enforcement career. And I believe that all agencies should not just do it on once or twice a year per their training mandate. You know, I think it's a perishable skill. You know, just quite honestly, if you're out there every single day, you may or may not be with a weapon. You have to know the levels for the use of force, the continuum, and you know, it's just something that I truly believe in the bottom of my heart that everyone in law enforcement needs to know how to do. I believe that the perfect mixture for a law enforcement officer, honestly, is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Krav Maga.
I'm glad you said that. That was my next question, and I agree with you 100%. You know, either that or like the Filipino martial arts
or the Filipino martial art.
Yeah, something that use hands and feet, stick, knife, whatever, and go to the ground.
Go to the ground.
And so what do you think about military doing, law enforcement doing something like military? Like now in the Marines, they have Marine combatives. Right. And they earn kind of like rank now because they want to continuously grow in it. We get it at the academy and we're done. So what do you think would be the best way to do it with police? Because some of them are not going to be some of them don't want to be black belts but what do you think a good way to do it? Because let me tell you, we have it even worse, because not only do we have to stand up and fight someone, we have to control our weapon. We have all this stuff on our belts that we have to make sure nobody's taking from us and all that. So how do you think we should put together a program, so to speak, for security, law enforcement, PIs, whatever it might be?
Well, one of the things that the military, the Marine Corps combatives, and the Army are combatives as well. They're doing they are doing a lot of ground and pound, as I like to call it. Okay, they're doing a lot of ground and pounding, but all fights start standing up, which is why I believe that there should be a good mixture of Krav Maga and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The Gracie family, they're going around. They're teaching law enforcement all across the country. Fantastic. I've been to their course. I've also been to the Masada course out in I think it's Maryland.
Tell me what the Masada course is. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the Masada course is actually Krav Maga, a version of it. I've been to that course, and I've been to several other different police defensive tactic courses. And even though I'm an 8th degree grandmaster in Taekwondo and a couple of other styles, you need to have that certification and that training, because you're always learning. Okay, no one really is a true expert at anything, and it's a perishable skill, and you have to continuously train.
And I like the one thing you said. I mean, you and I have a traditional background in martial arts, but when it comes to street application, we look at things that are made for the street. Now, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, I know a lot of people are doing these MMA tournaments and all that, but if you look at pure Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, they used to fight anybody and everybody, and they perfected it. It was for self-defense. Right. Krav Maga never had competition. Krav Maga was made for the Israeli Defense Service for self-defense, combat. Filipino martial arts was actually made for combat. Stick, knife, to fight the Spaniards who were invading their islands or whatever, however it goes. But these are combat arts versus our, we can kick somebody in the head. We can throw somebody with a Aikido throw. I tell you, I have a black belt in combat, have Aikido, and I found that sometimes against a drunk person or somebody on drugs, that
is not going to work.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned something important. You said ground and pound. Now, the military has a different mission than law enforcement. The military, we're going to ground and pound you and take you out because this is war. We can use those same type of techniques and kind of use it for law enforcement, but you don't want to be caught on video, of course, ground pounding somebody. So we have to do it different, right? We can't just beat somebody to submission. But those arts are going to be helpful, because when it comes down to it in our life is that stay. And remember, this is for law enforcement, security, and PIs and things like that. We got to protect ourselves. And we want to know how to effectively protect us. And we're fighting with one hand because we have a hand on our weapon or whatever, trying to keep you from taking our weapon. So I appreciate that you getting this from a grandmaster in martial arts, saying, you don't have to have a black belt. You have to keep your skills up and keep working them.
You have to keep them up.
But go learn the right things. Invest your money in the right thing. I see a lot of people taking the wrong things. They go get a Taekwondo black belt, sport Taekwondo.
Yeah. That's not going to do it. It's not going to do it at all.
So here's a question I want to ask you, and this is kind of changing direction. But what do you think is your biggest failure in this field, and what did you learn from it? Don't have to be anything personal, anything like that, but just what's your biggest failure overall that you think you could have done different, and how did you learn from that and correct it? Let me tell you why I say that. Because there's a lot of hotheads in our field. When you first come in, you think you are the man. You graduated from the academy 7 months. You got your Smokey the Bear hat on. You're 21 years old, 22 years old. You out there and you think you are the man. So looking back on your career, where do you think is the biggest failure, and what did you learn? One of your biggest.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
We all have a few.
That's a difficult question, actually, because as a young investigator in OSI, I screwed up a couple of times. As I stated, I didn't have a law enforcement background when I first got into OSI, and I wish I did. I wish I had gone through even though that's the policy of OSI. You don't have to be in law enforcement or an Air Force security policeman in order to be an agent. I really, for me, wish I had that background, because I had screwed up a couple of times earlier in my career. Later on in my career, when I was chief of police, I was not able to finish doing everything that I wanted to get accomplished. As far as my
tied a little bit back
then.
Yeah,
you know,
people think chief of police is all powerful, but we still have bosses.
No. Yeah, we do. We do.
But go ahead.
And,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think that's
so. Let me say this. So, based on your biggest failures, I said, what did you learn from it? I guess as a chief of police or a supervisor, whatever. I guess those failures, though. I mean, do you look at your employees different or understand them a little different, or what was your learning?
Yes.
From it? Okay. All right.
Very, very much so. I'm glad you said that. I'm a cop down to my bone. Okay. I became one, over these years, and I look at things and people differently, to include fellow law enforcement officers. I look at them differently. Now, once upon a time ago, I gave them carte blanche, because we only had ourselves to back each other up. And now is an entirely different thing, because of recent events around the country, because the bad apples have been coming out. And once upon a time, I would have gave them, the benefit of doubt. I don't do that anymore with anybody, law enforcement officers included. Because we're human. Granted, we're human, but I think as a career field, we need to do a better job of weeding the bad guys out.
Well, I think that's important what you say. I mean, even though we all have made mistakes in our career, we still know that we have to look at we have to be held to a higher ethical standard.
Yep.
We're in a glass house. If somebody has to be the good guys, we're expected to be the good guys. Let's look at the old days, or at least the TV version of it. You have the white hat and the black hat, and we had to wear the white hat. We can't be out taking bribes or letting this go and that go, or doing things internally, but we're going to enforce the law, and we're going to be the Judge Dredd or something. We're the person out there making a decision, but we're doing bad things on our own. So yes, we made mistakes, but we recognize, okay, we made mistakes, and I can let people maybe go with being late for his shift, but not for taking a bribe or taking money out of somebody's pocket and putting this back. We have to see that thin blue line does have a limit.
It does. So it for me, it's a real thin blue line. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a thread.
Me too. I used to tell people all the time, look, don't do it. People talk about what is it? Snitches get stitches or whatever.
Yeah.
I used to tell people, look, I'm not going to compromise myself or my family for you. So if you're going to do it, don't do it in my presence, because I'm telling you right now, I'm going to tell it. I'm going to tell it. So don't do this. Don't steal from the pot. Whatever it is, don't do it in front of me, because I believe, like you said, through my bone, I'm law enforcement and military, and I'm going to keep to we all raise our hands and swear, right? And we swear that we're going to uphold the law, and that's what I believe in. Yeah. So the same thing. So this has been great. This has been really great. I'm glad that this was really great. I think you gave people a lot of things to think about. If you could step into my shoes on this side for a moment, what would be one thing you would have asked yourself that I might have forgotten to ask? What do you want to leave people with?
Do you believe, I would say something to me like, do you recommend that is this really a career field that you would want to retire from? Because you changed, as the years go by. At one time, I was really a hard charger, very aggressive person. I was a very aggressive person, but as I gotten older and everything, what's the word? How would you say it? Woulda, shoulda, coulda. I would have did this differently. I would have done that differently. I could have done that differently. I don't think if I had a chance to do it over again, that I would. I think I would have took a different career path.
Well, I think you would like to own a string of martial arts schools, probably.
That should have been the game plan. But now that's actually the game plan after I retired. I only had about 2 years left to do. So,
Well, one good thing about our field is that law enforcement officers can come in young, do 20 years, retire, 41, 42,
that
and go
depends
on and
upon the
do
agency.
there's
That
something
depends upon the
to do what they
agency.
want to do. So that's a good point. I think though that what you said, yeah, we do so many things. We want to do different things. We all have in our life, but I think they need folks like you, like me, like other folks might be watching who are senior, because we've gone through those transitions and we transition your career. Like I was a street agent, then I became a supervisor, then I become
Right.
a they call a desk officer. I think they need that experience. And if we all retire and we're gone and we leave the career, we'd never have that experienced person to tell that young boy and take him by the hand and say, "Oh, you're making a mistake here. You
Yeah.
might want to listen to me." So I think they need people like you in the field with your depth of knowledge and experience to help the young folks.
Yeah,
But for us personally,
don't get me wrong. I love the job. Okay, my career. I think I've done great things. I did my best I possibly could do. Um, I've mentored a lot of people. I enjoyed it.
Mhm.
There was a sense of satisfaction. Um, but as I look onto my life and I'm ending my career
Mhm.
within the next 2 years, I would have done things differently, or I would if I would have done it, I've maybe done it for a few years and then I got out and I would have done my dream.
So what
Like
is
I
that
told you
dream?
from the beginning, I fell into this by accident.
Yeah, yeah.
I was teaching martial arts to cops, and they were
Mhm.
like, "Hey, come on in," and they recruited me.
Mhm.
And I was young and I didn't know what I really wanted to do with my life.
So what would
Uh,
that dream have been? What's that dream thing you like to do?
you don't want to know what that
Oh,
is.
no? Okay, you can't tell. All
No,
right.
no, not no, no. Actually, I have. I'm a graphic artist,
Mhm.
and I love doing that. I do that on my spare time now. I was a fine arts major,
Mhm.
and I kind of diverted when I went into the military, not knowing, because I didn't really have any real guidance as a teenager
Mhm.
as to what I wanted to do or where I was going. I was just all over the place, and a
Mhm.
lot of kids are that way today. They're just all over the place.
Mhm.
If I'd have had somebody that kind of fine tuned what I wanted to do, I probably would have. Um, Graphic arts
Mhm.
in the movies, actually. I like doing that kind of, and I do that for fun
Mhm.
now.
Yep.
I got a little side hustle that I
I
do.
like that because that was my daughter's major. She's in Japan trying
The
to.
one in Japan.
Yeah, that was her major. She graduated from graphics art, graphic design at Towson
Yeah,
University, and that's what she does. She does it on the side gig as she does, and she teaches it over in Japan. And I'm like, and then we have a connection because I would love to be an actor. Act on the side.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, because we have these dreams. I still have those dreams. I'm gonna be honest with you. Law enforcement wasn't part of my plan, and it's something that we naturally went to because of who we are,
Yeah,
protectors,
I'm a natural
military.
protector.
We gravitated towards what we probably do very, very well.
Yeah,
It was meant for us, but it's a hard career. Like you said, being in this field for many, many years, like we have, wears on you. I got PTSD. I'm a cynical guy
same.
who don't trust most people. You and I go to, I'm sure you do it. We all do. We go into a restaurant and our backs are to the wall and we're primed and ready to go. It changes who we are. I'm not gonna say that's a bad way. Matter of fact, I think we're more in tune sometimes. We know danger. We know people lying to us. We know how to protect our loved ones. So in a way, it makes us like, I don't know, James Bond secret agents. We know how, we know things that what's that guy Liam Neeson say? I have skill. I have special skills. We have special skills that other people don't have. And they have to be warriors or people like us out there, but it does change us. Warriors are changed. Samurai would change. Ninja would change. Whatever you want to look at it. Roman soldiers would change, so it does change us and make us different people. But I'm not
Right.
going to hold you up any longer. What do you want to leave us with? And then we'll wrap up.
I think both of us have said the same thing.
Mhm.
For those who are looking to get into the career field, to really do your homework and find out the real reason why you want to come in, and do you have the fortitude to continue on? You
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of people who've come on board, hard chargers, wind up what it's really like on the street. First time they come into a confrontation with somebody, wind up getting a butt whipped, and next thing you know, they're like, "I quit."
Exactly. Yeah, and we have people even quitting the academy. They say, well,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is not for me. So my brother, This has been really great. I really appreciate it. I thank you for your time, taking time away. This is New Year's, folks, so he's taking time away from his family and everything. I think it's going to be very valuable for people, though, to sit and listen to this. So I thank you for that. That's it. It's been great.
Well, Derek, thank you for what you do, brother. I really appreciate the opportunity to come out here and talk to you like this. Okay. Like you said, we've been friends for a very, very long time.
Yep.
And thanks for sharing that with me. So
right, thanks
again. Take care, brother. Right. God bless you.
You too. Well, that's it for this video, folks. If you want to learn more about private investigation or become a private investigator, check out my Private Investigator career course at privateinvestigationsacademy.com. It is jam-packed with 35 lessons on everything you need to possibly know to be a private investigator. And by the way, when you get my course, you also get a free vacation to one of 51 available locations, and I have a 3-payment plan available. So again, check out my PI career course at privateinvestigationsacademy.com. I'll see you on the next video.